Welcome to everybody tuning in. My name is Vaughan, the founder of Ballroom Mastery. I want to talk to you about the mental game of dance. Now, maybe you have one of these problems that I see with all of my students. At some point or another, you plateau. Okay, so this message is going to be for people who are just starting out their dancing journey and also the most experienced 20, 30-year veteran that's just like turning up, doing the same things every day and expecting a different result. Now, I appreciate you being here, so make sure you leave any comments or questions below. I'd love to hear from you. Now, there are three things I want to discuss. There's more than three things, right? You hear the internet, there's always tips that people give you, but fundamentally, there's more than one way to skin a cat. But in my 20 plus years of experience in dance sport, as well as teaching, that sounded weird, dance sport, but like as well as teaching in my own studio for the last 10 years, there are definitely patterns that play out, especially at different levels of dancing. And that's how I sort of want you to approach things. You have to sort of ascertain where you are. And part of that first step is the honesty, right, of where you are. Knowing where you sit is a great starting point, but it's also a difficult one because a lot of people don't want to recognize where they are because it might suck, right? It might not be really awesome to look at where you are because it's better to, not face reality and to live in this weird ideal fantasy in your head about how life actually could be and should be, but it isn't. And my job and what I try and do in my life, and I don't always win at this, by the way, I fail more than I win, right? This is one of the most important things because when you win big. This is the trick, right? And when you win, it's a systemic buildup of small wins coming to a bigger one, right? But I often fail more than I win. But as long as I win, eventually, you understand. And this is a conversation I had with my wife recently. So the first starting point of all of this, the pre-frame, is that we were discussing like, where are we going? What are we doing? And it was a brutally honest conversation, right? Because it's like, we have these conversations to build our relationship, but they're also really hard because you've got to think, well, in 5 years from now, are we happy doing what we're doing? And our kids are going to be older. They're going to have different needs, right? So we want to know our finances are going on track. We want to know that we're going to be in a certain position. Our sort of ethos is living debt-free. So we want to make sure the house is completely paid off. We want to make sure we don't owe anything else anywhere. And so we have this hard conversation like you would in dancing. You have to know like, hey, we're turning up to classes. We're turning up to training. We're turning up to dance together and we do it socially. That's great. So is that the thing that you're objective about, that you're wanting to do together, and that's awesome. For some of you, it's medals. Where are you going with that? Like, what's that moving you towards? Because you need that goal and outcome to know why you're turning up to push yourself. Fundamentally, dance sport is about being able to show up and to do the best you can each time and to then produce a better result every time you step onto the floor. Not a worse result, a better result. Now, I want to talk about those results overall for us as dancers to win the mental game, all right? So stay with me on this. Is really, really important. Now, the first thing that I've noticed that the people versus, listen, when it comes to winning, we all have different personalities, right? So you have to define winning. And I want you to define it for yourself because your definition matters more than what my definition is, okay? Because we have different goals and outcomes. Just like my wife and I are very different in terms of personality. Like she'll like, some of the ideas that she'll propose and some of the ideas I propose are so different. They're not even in the same ballpark, right? I love running a business. I'm entrepreneurial. I like to move forward in new ideas, new ventures, new ways of doing things. And I constantly like to challenge myself like that. But that freaks her out, right? Because it's uncertain. So if you're gripping to life by certainty and you're needing to have certain, a certain level of income guaranteed, you need a certain level of security in a job, or you need a certain level of security within a relationship. Well, I'm here to sort of say that my belief is that it doesn't exist, all right? Because the security is not an outside thing, it's an inside thing. And so the people that are most adept to winning, however you define that, have this ability to be extremely humble in their approach to life, right? And I'm not talking about, this is a funny one because it's quite an in-depth subject, but fundamentally I believe that across the board, the people that win, despite personality differences, despite levels of ego, right, conceit, if you will, and pride, humbleness is really where people win big, because humbleness is this ability to really be open, right? It's to know that you don't know everything and to recognize that maybe your way isn't working. Now, this is one of the first things I've noticed with students who come in, the ones who seem to do well very early in their dancing versus, not really getting it ever. And it's harder because as you go on and get more experience and learn more and your knowledge goes up, right? Your technique skills also increase, you hope, right? That's what you're aiming for. The humbleness can also drop because you start to believe that you are maybe better than you think you are. And then when that happens, you're done, right? That's where you find it so trapping on how to improve and how to get better because you are thinking that every time you turn up, you know, you've got it. Well, you don't get it, my friends. Unfortunately, you and I don't get it. We are getting it, right? Where there's no real arrival point, we just keep developing, right? Skill sets keep improving. This is the beauty of dance, okay? The minute we think we got it, we're done. So humility allows you to be open, and open to what? Ideas. Now, the ideas are the key because I have a student who came to me and I've been working with them for a number of years and they've been dancing for, 3 decades. So I've been dancing less than that, a lot less than that, but yet my results reflect something I was doing worked because they are nowhere near that level of results. Now, what I was suggesting to them was that it's really important you take stock of where you are, but also, are you open to new ideas? Oh, of course I am. Well, really, because the way we can test that is that we try a new approach to the strategy of dance, right? To the way you approach your art form, the way you train, the way you practice. Even the information I tell you or share with you, if you reject it, then you're going to have a problem improving, and that means you're also not open to the idea. So you have to be willing to be open. Now, are you open? Do you find yourself closed-minded to new ideas? Do you find yourself, I don't like this online business stuff. I don't like learning off YouTube. I don't see any merit in it. Well, then that's not really being open, is it? Because have you tried it? Like, have you really tried it? Because a lot of the people that I've found that go through, say, courses and programs I create are freaking blown away when they understand that there's a certain way you teach online that's very different to how you teach offline. And I believe the power is both. But most people are very closed about that, right? They think, oh, no, I only like in person. Well, what if the person you're learning from doesn't have the information that you need? Well, that's a problem, isn't it? What if you don't have a partner and you want a partner, right? So there's certain limitations offline. So don't think that offline is the end all and be all. In our professional career, we had students that were, we had competitive friends who had to dance with another partner in another country. That is the level of commitment that they required. They needed to fly to a different country once a month and they would train together for a few hours, and then through the week they would have separate lessons with their teacher. Now think about the power of that, right? How humble you need to be and how driven to make that a reality. You have to adjust to new ideas very quickly. And so that's what I'm suggesting, proposing for all of us, is to remain humble, to remain open, and to try new things, but also to recognize that there is no perfect solution. So just because you prefer things a certain way doesn't mean it's the correct way. And how do you know that? Well, it's reflected in the results that you have. And so if you feel stagnated or plateauing, this is a really good message to understand. Remaining humble, eating that humble pie occasionally is a really good thing. This is why I love dance sport as a competition, because it humbles you. You always realize there's someone better than you coming up. Even if you're a champion, there is someone coming up that's dancing better than you or that has a different take on it. That's what's brilliant about competition, is this idea that it can level you. I've also noticed people get wiped out completely from dance sport because they were way too egocentric. In fact, they had no humble pie, right? They had no humble pie at all. All right, they had arsehole pie. That's all they ate. They were not nice people. They thought they knew everything. And guess what? Those are the people I've noticed that really don't get the results that you're aiming for, okay? So the humbleness is very important, open to ideas. The second thing is confidence. Now, do you lack confidence? What do you think, right? Do you think that you are a confident person, so to speak? Now, I don't really like that idea as a thing, because a confident person, I don't believe exists. Confidence is a skill that you learn and acquire over time. And how do you do that? Well, you expose yourself. What do you expose yourself to? Get your mind out of the gutter. What do you expose yourself to? You expose yourself to threats, right? You expose yourself to things that scare the bejesus out of you. You put yourself in positions of overwhelm and fear, okay? And that is where you meet your character and your true self. It's your ability to rise up against that starts to formulate confidence. Now, the problem is if you don't have a skill set under it, you're often going into it quite naively, right? So you're going into, say, speak at a presentation, you haven't prepared out in your own life, in other areas as well. You get skills, your confidence goes up, and you get more of that positive feedback loop. Life is good, right? You start to feel more confident. You start to feel, oh, I can do this, maybe. Because your humbleness sort of keeps you in check, right? This is the idea. And so if we can bring those together by exposing ourselves voluntarily to things that scare the crap out of us, that is awesome, all right? And I challenge you to do that. Part of it could be learning off some of the YouTube videos I do, like challenging yourself to do that, because you have to dance by yourself. Maybe you have to dance at home. Maybe you have to dance in a limited space. Maybe asking someone to dance with you could be that terrifying thing. Maybe volunteering yourself to dance at a performance or a competition or to start medals. Either way, those are the things that will expose you. And how do you know? Well, it's the thing that you don't really want to do, but you've always been thinking about it. All right? That's the thing. All right? That's my next step. Okay, cool. And now what are we doing? We're starting to win the mental game. You see? The plateauing will start to get a bit of a shake, right? Because you build this little weird foundation on a plateau. You can be very comfortable on this little plateau. It's not nice to be there, but at least you know where you are, right? But is that where you really want to be going? And so that's the question you have to ask, because life doesn't stagnate, okay? So if you're at a plateau, trust me, things go backwards too, all right? They don't go always across. So let's go into the third thing, right? We want to adjust strategy. So strategy is something very, very important because we've got a mental side of things, right? How we think about things, how we approach things. And I'm not one to believe that it's positive versus negative, okay? That's like really old school. There's been a lot more development in, I suppose, the area of psychology and, in the mental game, I suppose, than just Norman Vincent Peale's positive mental attitude bullshit, to be honest, right? It's not just positive mental attitude. It's important, obviously. You want the attitude component, no, sure. But, if you're trying to cut out negative emotion, that is extremely unhealthy, right? You have to understand and embrace and understand what negative emotions do to serve you, as well as positive. Now, if you've got overwhelming negative emotions, you got to deal with that, right? Like that's something you deal with, but they don't go away and you don't shove them down. But a lot of personal development teaches that. It's very dangerous, okay? It's very dangerous to think, hey, have you seen the Book of Mormon? I love this musical, right? Like, I got a really dark sense of humor. And so we went to Times Square after doing the World Championship in Miami. And I took Allison out for like a 3-day fiesta of like Broadway, the Philharmonic Orchestra, went to the Met. It was amazing, right? It was a great experience. We wanted to do all those New Yorkian things, Radio City Hall. And so what do we do? Book of Mormon on Broadway. Oh my God. Now there's a song in there you should listen to, right? I think it's called Turn It Off. But the whole theory of this song, right, is that, hey, there's a gay, I can't remember what they call them now. It eludes me. But, one of the, I suppose, the followers, right, in the Book of Mormon, he's walking around and he's a closet gay man. So he acts like it, he sings like it, he doesn't want to tell anyone. But the whole idea of this song is you turn it off like a light switch, right? So you don't tell anyone. How do you deal with your feelings? You turn it off like a light switch. It goes click. It's a neat little Mormon trick. Now, I'm not dissing Mormons. What I'm saying is that idea is actually perpetuated quite astonishingly through personal development, but it's beautifully worded. It's not like that. It's just basically, hey, something's wrong with you if you feel those emotions. Hey, something is wrong with you if you can't work your way out of just having a positive mental attitude all the time, right? It's dangerous advice, okay? Because it actually means that you have way more responsibility on you that sometimes is owed, right? You have to take responsibility, but not everything's your fault, okay? Do you see the problem? So I believed that for a long time. It was very unhealthy. Now, it worked on one side, but it was really dangerous on dealing with some of the problems I had in my life as a younger boy. And so some of the issues that I'm encouraging you to understand, so when you adjust strategy, right, and you move, well, what are you actually doing here? You've gone through this phase of being open to change. So that's important. If you're not there, you can't adjust strategy, right? Adjusting strategy also allows you to then move into the next domain, which is fundamentally thinking, okay, if I'm here, truth be told, I don't like where I am, I want to go here. What then happens? Well, we have to make a series of strategic moves to get you there, okay? It could be something as simple as an extra lesson a week. I'm stunned by how many people don't do extra lessons, yet they cry and complain that they aren't doing well at competition. It's like, really? Right? That's so obvious, but people think that, I don't have the money. Well, that's a strategy problem, right? That's a strategy problem. You have money for rent and food, just go find some money for the things you love and invest in yourself, right? That's something you can actually do. That's a strategy problem, right? It's also part of the mental game of money, right? Which is a different topic. But the idea here is what? The strategy matters. Now, let me talk to you about experienced dancers versus new dancers, right? In the framework of what we just talked about. Humbleness, confidence, and adjusting strategy. So a new dancer comes into the studio, right? What does a new dancer do? Right, a new dancer comes in and they are like I used to be. Oh, whack those back on. And when I say used to be, you know, still find this feeling sometimes coming through. What's up, Paula? Awesome to have you here. Thank you. Feel free to leave any comments or questions. So a new dancer comes in the studio. What do? They're like this. They're up on the wall. Can I come in? Oh my, I don't want to come in. I'm scared. My wife made me do it. She brought me in here, right? And so then what? Petrified, freaking out, right? Like just melting on the inside, right? Why? Because here's what happens. Let's say you're a 50-year-old man. You're a top lawyer or a judge, right? I had a client come into the studio like this, right? This guy is a weapon in law, all right? Clearly to be a judge, you are top of the class and society in a way, right? In the hierarchy, you're up there, you're up there. Okay, comes into the studio, where is he? He ain't up here no more, he's down here. Whoa, where are you? Raw beginner level. You are numpty level. You're not good, and you know you're not good. Plus, you feel you're going to be embarrassed by coming into the studio and what? Looking terrible on the dance floor because everyone's going to be judging you. By the way, people aren't even watching you. Most people don't care about you when you're in the studio, but we think they do, right? But they might for 5 seconds and they're back to themselves. You're lucky if you get 5 seconds if they think about you, right? So you come into the studio, newbie dancer, petrified, but still does it. Now they meet themselves. Why? Because if you can, I mean, let's disregard the people that actually just don't like to dance. Let's talk about the people that go, I like dancing, I could actually be good at it, but this is the mental game. They come in, they recognize that they're not very good at it, they struggle, and then they let that beat them. And that's the thing that makes them quit, all right? Not the fact they didn't like it. I see this happen a lot, okay? And now, if you can push through that moment and you just recognize the ugly bird syndrome, which is like, you know, in Australia we have birds called magpies. You should Google these things. These things are terrifying. Everyone thinks everything kills you in Australia, and it does, right? Everything kills you in Australia. These magpies, right, they swoop during breeding season, okay? So like they come down from the trees and you have to wear a helmet with funny like antlers coming out, like to stop them swooping you, unless they're in your territory. Like I feed my magpies in the area, so they all know us, they're good, right? They're good out there. They don't try to take my eyeballs out like a raven, right? Anyway, so magpies, when their little ones are growing, they fluff on their neck, right? They fluff out the neck, right? Fluff on their neck. They got like, they're squawking all the time, like my little Sterling, my little buddy, right? My little 2-year-old son. He's amazing, right? But he is fluff on the neck, dude. He has no idea what he's doing. Dude, he's naive as hell. It's fantastic, right? So that is us going to the dance studio. You have to get through the ugly magpie phase. If you can, you start to mature up and realize, okay, I'm getting more confident. Because of this confidence, it makes me want to do it a bit more. I could go somewhere with this. So what's the strategy? Well, you just keep going to classes. That's very easy, right? Then you start to adjust the strategy. Like, do I do some recreational dancing? Do I do some competition? Do I do some medals? Yes, that's generally a good idea. Why? Because it's the thing that starts to move you out of that space of being a newbie to like a novice, right? And that's how you move up. Now, by the way, each level has like a plateau, right? So you can plateau based upon the strategy you're doing and based upon your level of input and output, right? So that's one of the things that we have to be aware of, is that it's totally cool to plateau. It's not cool to plateau in my opinion, but it's cool to understand, like, I'm comfortable here. Like, this is where I want to play, right? I don't want to go up here. I want to play here. I like that, right? Because at least you know. But the trick is to make sure that you can get the most out of yourself in that space, right? Owning your space is very important. Now, an experienced dancer, what happens with them? Okay, so it's like the opposite. They know so much that they're actually clouded by that. So I have this student who's been dancing for a long time, and it's like being, sometimes I pick this chair and I just want to like bang my head on it because I'm like, this guy is just not listening. He just doesn't, I've said, I don't want your money. You need to listen. Otherwise, there's no point me coaching you, okay? You're paying for my advice, you're paying for my time, and I love what I do, and I put so much more effort into it. I teach from passion, right? And we run a business from profit, right? That's what we're trying to do. But it's not you go into oil and gas and investing in stocks and all that if you want to just be money hungry, right? With dancing, it's passion driven. You love it, right? I go out of my way to learn techniques so what is the edge I can give you? It's a cliche, but it's true. So you got to make sure that you focus on trying a new strategy, right? That's all you got to do. You got to open up yourself to the possibility something could be done differently. And this is a cool thing to think about and to play with. You could not agree with anything I'm saying, but test it out, because this is part of the problem. I will often say, it doesn't matter if you believe me or not, because I didn't invent what I'm talking about. I'm the curator of information. I walk around like a librarian in dance, and I find information. I take ideas, I put them together, I test them on people, and they work. I test it on myself, it works. So I'm going to pass that to you. We're going to figure out what works for you. But you have to have the humble pie. You have to eat that pie with a little latte, and then you have to realize, let's try that different thing and see what happens, okay? So in between the newbie moving up and the experienced dancer sort of resetting themselves, recalibrating themselves to go forward confidently to a new level for them, we can find in the mental game of dance that there's actually commonalities amongst us all, right? The differences lie in our personalities, right? And what we actually want and you know, where we are in terms of our age and our, you know, resources and those sorts of things. But we can definitely use these three ideas as a great platform to recalibrate and readjust where we're going. But just remember, what got you to where you are won't be sufficient to get you to another level if that's what you want. Okay, it will maintain. And if that's comfortable for you, that is okay by me. That is awesome, right? Like, props to you if that's where you are. For me personally, I like to grow. So if you want to grow and you want to create that growth, then this lesson is going to be very, very good for your mental game. It's going to be the thing that's going to help you open up. So we want to go to that next level by examining our results, being honest where we are, having enough humbleness to be open to new ideas, and then adjusting the strategy to execute on those ideas. And if they don't work, to try something different. But you've also got to give them enough time to sort of manifest, okay? So don't try something once and then think, oh, it didn't work, try something else. Sometimes you've got to give it a really hard crack for a couple of weeks, a few months, maybe even a year. But it's when you start to crack over a year or two, you start to notice things haven't really changed. You may not have to change the goal. Like when I was talking to my wife about where we're going, I was like, look, I'm not really changing the goal, but I'm definitely pivoting on the strategy. If things don't work or things do work with what I'm doing with different things and different businesses, I move, right, accordingly. Just like you can't be reactionary all the time, because then you lose, right? You have to take some ownership in the results and some ownership in the strategy. But, you know, I can't control the economy, right? I can't control if less people come to my studio, but I will definitely do my best to bring in as many as I can, and, you know, to build my business that way. But that's what we can control, right? So I hope you enjoyed this message today. Remember, what got you to where you are will not get you to the next level. Boom. Thank you for being here. It is amazing to have you here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.